Ayesha was only 10 when life first showed her its cruelty. Born into a small village where survival itself was a daily struggle, she was the eldest daughter of a kind-hearted laborer and a mother who stitched clothes for neighbors to earn a little extra. Their house was tiny, made of clay walls and a tin roof that leaked whenever it rained. But despite the hardships, their home had something more precious than wealth: love. Ayesha loved to smile. Her teachers often said that her laughter could light up the dull classroom walls. She dreamed of becoming a teacher herself one day, of helping children like her escape the chains of poverty. She carried her books carefully every morning as though they were treasures, and indeed they were. For Ayesha, education was not just about learning words, it was hope. It was freedom. But life has a way of testing even the purest dreams. One summer afternoon, as she returned from school, a speeding truck lost control on the narrow village road. The crash was sudden, brutal, and in that instant, Ayesha's life changed forever. She survived, but her body bore the weight of the accident. Deep scars stretched across her arms and legs, and her face was marked with burns from the gasoline fire that erupted. When she first saw herself in the mirror after months of painful treatment, her little hands trembled. The vibrant, carefree girl who once smiled at the world now stared at her own reflection with fear. Her cheeks were uneven, her lips twisted slightly on one side, and the shine in her eyes drowned in silent tears. "Amy," she whispered one night, as her mother brushed her hair gently, "will people ever look at me the same way again?" Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she forced a smile. "My child, the world may see your scars, but I see the heart that still beats with love inside you. That is more beautiful than anything else." But children can be cruel, and the world outside her home did not share her mother's wisdom. When Ayesha returned to school, whispers followed her. Classmates stared, pointed, and giggled behind her back. "Burnt face," some called her. Others avoided sitting with her altogether. Each word stabbed deeper than any wound the accident had left. Ayesha stopped smiling. She began covering her face with a scarf, avoiding conversations, and burying her head in her books. At night, she cried silently into her pillow, wishing she could peel away the skin that carried her scars. Years passed, but the pain inside her never truly left. Yet, she did not give up on studying. Every insult, every cruel glance only pushed her harder. She immersed herself in lessons, finding comfort in knowledge, in the quiet company of words that never judged her. By the time she reached college, she had built a wall around herself. Her grades were excellent, but her heart was heavy. It was during those college years that she met someone who would unknowingly change her life. Again, Ali, a fellow student. He was the kind of boy everyone liked, cheerful, helpful, with an easy laugh. He noticed Ayesha not because of her scars, but because of her silence. While others avoided her, he often found ways to sit near her, ask about her studies, and include her in group projects. At first, Ayesha thought it was pity. She avoided eye contact, answered curtly, and built excuses to keep distance. But Ali was persistent, though never forceful. "You're the smartest one here," he once said during a project, smiling sincerely. "Don't hide your ideas. We need them." For the first time in years, someone had valued her voice rather than her appearance. That night, Ayesha stared into the mirror again. For the first time, she didn't just see scars. She saw a girl who had survived, who was strong enough to keep moving when life had tried to break her. A tiny spark lit inside her heart. Slowly, she began to let people in. Ali and a few others became her circle. She started speaking in class, even daring to give a presentation. Her voice shook, her hands trembled, but when she finished, the applause was real. And when she glanced at Ali, he gave her a look of pride that reminded her of what her mother had said years ago: "Beauty lies within." Still, the world didn't magically change. Strangers still stared. Some people still whispered. But now, Ayesha had grown stronger. She learned to smile again and not to hide her scars. But despite them, after college, she pursued her dream of teaching. She applied for a job in a city school, and though she feared rejection because of her appearance, her qualifications spoke louder. She was hired. On her first day, the children looked at her curiously. Some whispered the way her old classmates once had. But instead of hiding, Ayesha walked to the blackboard with steady steps and wrote in bold letters, The most beautiful thing in the world is a heart that never gives up. The students grew quiet, and then, slowly, they began to love her not for her face, but for the kindness with which she taught, the patience with which she explained, and the warmth that radiated from her. Her scars never faded, but her smile grew brighter with every passing day. She became not only a teacher but also a mentor who spoke openly about strength, resilience, and acceptance. Many children who felt small, different, or unwanted found courage in her presence. Years later, when she was invited to speak at a seminar about overcoming adversity, Ayesha stood in front of hundreds. She told her story not with shame, but with pride. "Yes," she said, touching her face gently, "I carry scars. They remind me of pain, but also of survival. These marks do not define my worth. What defines me is my courage to smile, to dream, and to live fully. If you remember one thing from me today, let it be this: never hide your scars, because behind them lies a story of strength." The hall echoed with applause. Many in the audience had tears in their eyes, and among them was her mother, who smiled through her tears, proud of the daughter who had once cried in her lap but now stood inspiring the world. Later that evening, Ayesha wrote in her diary, "The world once laughed at me for being scarred. Today, I smile not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. My scars are not the end of my story. They are the reason I found the strength to begin again." Her journey wasn't perfect. She still had days when the mirror brought back painful memories. But every time she smiled, it was no longer to hide sadness, it was to celebrate survival. And so, Ayesha's story became a living testament that scars do not destroy beauty, they reveal the depth of the soul. Her smile, once lost in fear, now shone brighter than any unscarred face, because it carried with it the courage of 1,000 battles. It was the smile behind the scars,